Welcome back to our small repair community. The question of the day is, how can such a small damage present such a sizable challenge? Now, I was a bit hesitant to post this video at first because things, as you'll see, did not turn out just as planned. However, along the way, we did discuss some very important and very practical repair principles. So let's do it. So our very next assignment is to fix a small scratch in the headliner of a brand new airplane interior. This is not as simple as it maybe first appears, and so before we go and distort the space-time continuum, it would be good to review what we're up against. Now, the aircraft headliners are typically made of ultra leather, and this is an ultra leather that's the same color and the same design as what's in the aircraft. So this has been supplied to me so that we can match the color. Other than that, we would have to match the color in the plane, but we do have a little swatch here that we can use ahead of time to prepare. And also, what one of my friends has done is he's prepared me a little sample. This is the kind of material that's likely in the headliner of the plane already. It's a board. It's like a plastic board, and the headliner is glued directly to that. So this is going to be the ultra leather that's glued directly to that board. So that's typically what we're facing, and so we've also made some damage in it. That way we can do a mock-up and prepare for this repair, because the airplane is a 2-hour drive away, and so we want to be as prepared in advance as possible. Now, I don't know how you can see that on the video yet. I can't tell from the display. I did get a little bit of a light here so that we could shine that across, and maybe that will help to reveal it a little better, some oblique lighting on there. So this is going to be our practice. This is going to be our mock-up, so that when we go there we can be fully prepared. Alright, so the first thing we probably ought to address about ultra leather is the fact that anything sprayed on ultra leather can be obvious. In the airplane, this is going to be a very large panel. Any work done in the middle of this panel is going to stand out like a sore thumb. So the color is going to be very important to get exact. And one feature of the color that stands out in the airplane is, of course, when you look at it directly on, that's called looking at the face of it. But when you go into the plane and walk down the aisle, you're going to see the flop, meaning you're going to see it from the side, right? You're going to look down the length of that panel. And therefore, anything down the length of that panel that's changed, you're going to see a spot there. And so experience tells me you do not want to be spraying in the middle of the panel, if at all possible. If at all possible. So blending a repair out in the middle is almost, it's adding more problems than what you started with. How far are you going to blend out? On a large panel, you can blend out several feet before you actually disguise what you're working on. So anything that you spray is going to be obvious almost almost inevitably. As you notice, this ultra leather, as with most ultra leathers, has a very flat sheen, okay? Almost no sheen at all. A very flat look, a matte finish, if you will. So that's another thing. If we mix up any color at all here, then we want to make sure that we match the sheen. So when we check our color, we're going to be checking the color face on. We're going to look at the flop. Maybe our color looks good at the face, but when we look at the flop, it's darker or lighter. We have to adjust for that. We want to adjust for the sheen, because if it's shiny, it's going to look lighter. So we want to make sure that the color is the same matte finish as the ultra leather. Now if we just take, speaking of color, if we take a look at our damage, when someone enters the plane and they look at the damage, they're probably going to see, maybe not the damage itself, but they're going to see a black mark wherever the finish is broken. So that gives us a hint. If you're seeing black there, then if we can eliminate just the blackness, okay, will that help to disguise the damage enough so it's all one solid color? That's something we're going to take seriously into consideration here. Now let's talk about the repair. The ultra leather is a urethane, and we can check that even on their website and realize it's urethane. This would be called or would be designated by PU, right? Polyurethane. Urethane for short. So what's the characteristic of the urethane then? Well, a urethane is not a thermoplastic. In other words, a urethane will not melt with heat. So if we think we're going to melt this damage down and put it back down, that's typically not going to happen with the urethane. Now sometimes you can get heat to work on urethane a little bit, to, you know, as long as it's warmed up some, it may work better than when it's cold, but it will not remelt. You can't reconstitute it. You cannot reshape the urethane using heat. So heat is really out of the question with the urethane. The other thing is that you wouldn't really want to melt and regrain something in the middle of this large panel. This is a very large panel. So anything that you do in the way of heat and regraining is going to stand out like a great big old thumbprint right in the middle of that panel. And that's one of the main problems with this repair, is that anything is going to be visible because it's a huge flat area. It's like putting everything you do right out there on the movie screen for everybody to see. So if we're not going to use heat with urethanes, then what about adhesives? So we could use adhesives to hold down each of the flaps, couldn't we? That would be good. We wouldn't want any adhesive on the surface, because then we're going to have a spot. If we use an adhesive, we would not want to use a strong solvent adhesive, because solvent will wrinkle the urethane. So if that wrinkles up, we can't fix it, right? We cannot fix it. So let's not use a strong solvent here and have, again, a big fingerprint in the middle of our panel. If you notice with the oblique lighting here, these flaps also cast a shadow. See here? So raised areas will also result in a dark area, right? Because of the shadow. You can never color the dark area because it is a shadow. So the thing is, we want to anchor the flaps down. And if we can anchor the flaps down, they no longer cast that shadow. And so that eliminates also some of the dark look. So far we've discussed the darkness of the cut itself, where the color is missing, and the darkness of the shadow. So we can aim to solve both of those dilemmas. Now, if we put adhesive under the flap, and it's a very thick adhesive, then that flap will still be raised, possibly. Well, if it's raised and the adhesive is cured, what can we do about it? Well, we can't do anything about it because we cannot sand down the urethane. The urethane is going to react, in essence, a lot like rubber, right? Where you can't really sand it. It's flexible and gives way and does not allow itself to be sanded flat, typically. And so sanding would be out of the question. We really don't want to abrade the surface anyway. So if we're going to use adhesive, then a consideration would be a very thin adhesive and something that's not a solvent adhesive, okay? Because we don't want a wrinkle. So those are the things that come into play here. So we could use a very minimal adhesive. The thing to think about with the adhesive, will our color suffice as an adhesive? Well, not right away because it's wet, but will our color suffice as an adhesive if while we're drying it, let's say with a hair dryer, okay, the color starts to get tacky as it's curing. So at some point when it's tacky, maybe that flap will stay down. Because what is our color? Our color is pigment and binder. So with the binder, is the binder enough to bind the flap down to our substrate, which is our plastic? Okay, so that's a good question. How about using fillers? Well, again, we can't fill in the texture. Anything we do at all to the texture of this is going to be visible. It's going to be a spot. Anywhere where we have a flat spot, it's going to appear to be shiny because the texture is no longer breaking up the light that's bouncing off of it, okay, reflecting off of it, refracting off of it, to be more exact. So the flat spot will then look shinier. It's smoother. Again, it's going to be very obvious. So then, what is left for our approach to this repair? Well, I think we should get on some magnifying glasses, right? Reading glasses, or high-powered reading glasses at least. I think we should make a plan to adhere one flap at a time. So we're going to magnify this, open up the ones that are available to be opened, put some color underneath of them, and dry that. Make sure we don't have any color on the surface. And then what we'll do is try to hold that down, or tamp that down while the adhesive is curing. We might just do one flap at a time, one section at a time. We don't want to increase the visibility of this at all. We want to diminish. So we're going to have a very minimalistic approach to this. The color that we're going to use is going to be a prepared color. It's also going to be adjusted for sheen, as we mentioned, so that any color, and it'll be a very tiny amount of color that's showing, is going to be where that black used to show, and that's all it has to do. A very minimal look. But because we've taken time to make the color so perfectly, that minimal look in that tiny crack is not going to be visible. That's our goal, anyhow. So if you step back after repairing this, you step back, and from a few feet away, you don't see any black marks, you are done. As a suggestion, walk away and do not fall victim to thinking that you need to put any further efforts into it. We've already considered these further efforts ahead of time, right? And we've dismissed them as not contributing. Okay? They're detracting. So that's going to be our goal. We've got a 2-hour drive. We're going to mix our color here ahead of time. I'm going to do that right now. And we'll have our color ready to go. We'll have our process ready. We've got our tool ready. I use this little probe or one like it. I make sure that the end of the probe is nice and clean. We want that to be polished off with some sandpaper so that that doesn't stick. Nice and clean. So let's address the color situation and get ready to go. So I had some Skyhawk color left over, and as you can see, that's dark and yellow, even a bit orange. So of course white to get the value better, right? And a drop of blue to kill the orange, and then it still looked a bit greenish. So what I did is I got just a little bit of red on a probe, not a full drop of it, just a little bit of red on a probe, and mixed it in there to kill the greenish look. And that's what I ended up with. So what I'm going to do is, so there's flattener in here as well. I just added flattener because we know that we're going to need that. And so there's my color. I will strain this color ahead of time and take it with me. So the color will be ready to go immediately when we get there. Here's the color. I put it right here. So you can't really see any difference there, so I think we're good. If we looked at the face and the flop, I think you can't tell the difference. Of course, we're not going to be spraying it. We're still going to check it, but we're not going to spray the color. We just want to know. We just want to be 100% convinced and confident, when we get there, that this is it. And so that's what we've done. We've dabbed it on there and dried it down, and it blends perfectly. It's flat. It's not shiny. Okay. So now we can feel good about our repair. And our 2-hour drive, we won't be fretting. The only thing we're going to fret is how flat we can get our damage. And we can even do a little practice on this damage here before we head out. So I have my color to take with me, and I have a little residue in my cup. Let's use that to get started. Let's take this flap right here. And let's get some paint in that flap. Let's take any residue off the surface. Let's see how that works. Pushed into place. I've got my specs on. Okay. I'm going to take the hair dryer, be a little noisy. And blew everything off the table. Okay, so that did okay. Here's a black spot where it's broken. Let's see what a little bit of color will do in there. Put too much on there. All right, let's go a little better this time. Well, we do have a fire station that's not far from here, so we get to hear every siren for every call. All right, let's see if we can minimize the effect of this. Okay, so we've gone over the surface a little bit there. Let's use it. Let's see what happens. It's funny how that spot looks a little bluish. So what I think we'll do is we'll take our color and we'll divide it in half and make an adjustment. We're going to lighten that up a little bit, I think. And we'll take two colors with us. And the benefit of that is we won't know when we get there which color is going to work. It might depend on where it's located. Okay, so we got something under that flap. Let's try this one. Okay. So we're going to tamp that spot right down one more time right there. Okay, so you can see what nice progress we're making on that dark line. Okay, we're lightening it up. And what we don't have, now we do have a little bit of a pit here. Also take into consideration that this is a little deeper than the rest, but we still need some grain line there. Still need a little bit of grain line. And so what we'll do in a real scenario here is we'll step back and take a look from a distance and see if that's okay. It's possible we could fill that with a little bit of filler so it's not so deep. It's casting a shadow in the crater right now. So we could add a little something, barely adding something in there, not trying to erase the line because we can't, erase all the lines of grain. But in this area, we've eliminated the shadows shining across from this light. Okay, we've eliminated the shadows. So that's good. So this is the approach we're going to take. We're going to try to keep it small, keep it localized. Everything we add is going to be a similar color with a similar sheen. And hopefully that when we step back and look at it from a distance, nothing will be obvious. We won't have created more damage than what we saw when we got there. That's the plan. And now we're going to put it in the road. All right, just another couple of minutes here. What I have done, we talked about needing possibly some filler for the crater. So I've got a little bit of filler I'm taking with me. It's kind of a heavy-bodied filler. It's a filler that doesn't shrink too much. All right. We're going to use that for there. While I was at it, I did realize I had some glue, some white glue for leather. That'll suffice in this application. So let's say we had a flap that resisted, being put down. It could be that we need a little stronger glue than the binder we were using. So I wanted to make sure that we had a glue that was able to do that. It's a water-based glue, so we're not going to wrinkle the surface here. Also, I have adjusted my color a little bit, and so that's working better than our first dab that we tried. Okay, now as you can probably see a little something from here down to here. All right, well, I did a little test with these components I just showed you, and this is all repaired. Now, the reason we can see it is we have a light next to it and we see a bit of a shadow. The light is actually below the surface, which is probably not going to happen in real life. If we bring it up here, we have less shadow, less is detected, but you're never going to put a light directly on our repair. So what we hope to do is just back this off a little bit, and under ambient lighting, we're not going to see this repair. In fact, I can vouch for the fact that just a couple feet away, you can't see anything here. This would be considered a perfect repair from the vantage point of a couple feet away. I'm really happy with that. And that employed the adhesive, the filler, and our color. So let's just do a little bit. Now when you have a deep hole like this, the filler might take an application or two because the air dry fillers do shrink just a little bit. But let's just take a little practice area where we can get some adhesive as well. Let's take this flap, for example. Let's take that flap and put just a little adhesive. I want to keep a paper towel here to keep everything nice and clean. All right, so let's get some adhesive in there, nice and wet. All right, clean our tool off, clean the excess off. Now, as we mentioned, when we try to dry this, the adhesive will get tackier as it's drying, and so at some point it's going to grip the flap. I want to put this on a medium heat, not too hot. We don't want to boil our adhesive. So as that's drying, I'm going to tamp that into place. Okay, so that's holding that down pretty good. Well, that was too easy. I don't even think we need to do any more there. Let's go here. So let's get some glue pushed into there. Clean the tool, clean the surface. Medium heat. What is this? I don't know what that is, but let's just touch that. We'll touch that, clean, clean, and tamp. Okay, so that's not too bad of a demonstration right there, just to show some progress. But if we wanted to add also some filler, let's just show that. Here again, we want just the tiniest amount of filler here. Let's put some in this little thing. Well, I've got some on the surface. Let's take that off. Let's get some more down in there. Right? Yeah, just like that. Just the tiniest amount. All right, now as we dry that again, we're going to tamp it flat. Easy does it. Let's let that get a little bit of a skin on it first. Let's see what happens here. Tamp it down. Okay, we're not going to spend forever on this. I just wanted to show you. The other thing that we can do to get a good visual is I have these little brushes, I guess. I don't know what, let's see what they call them. I don't know what they call them. They're just, I guess, a fine tip little applicator, right? Okay, so you can see with the darkness there of the filler. And what I was discovering is these little applicators work pretty good, right? To put just a tiny amount of color, and what I do is just put a drop and then hit it one time. Right? Drop and hit it one time. All right, dry that. Okay, so that's going to be our process for building. Now here's the thing. If you were to look at this from the flop, and I don't know how that's going to show here on our video, but when we look at it from the flop, we see a shiny area on the surface. Okay, so we don't want shiny surface. And the reason for that is there's just a little excess around the area inevitably. Okay, so what I'm going to do there is I'm going to take some alcohol. This is 99% isopropanol. We're just going to get a rag that's damp but not wet. Okay, and we can kiss across the surface of our repair just lightly. Okay, that's going to hopefully take off the gloss that we're seeing there, take off any excess that happens to be lingering, and at that point we can feel free to put a point of color, just touch them and dry. All right, so that's going to be our approach. Now you're probably wondering why I'm spending so much time with you on this mock-up. Well, when we get into the plane, I'm not sure how close that we can get for a video. We might be in a very cramped position here. I don't know exactly where the damage is located. Sometimes if the damage is overhead on a curved part, you got to bend your head backwards, and it can be a real pain to try to get anything done there. So I just wanted to show you on the mock-up the approach that we're going to take to fix this. We can take as much time to be as neat as possible with it, but that's the goal. Just steadily work our way along. Glue, tamp, filler, tamp, color, tamp. If it's some excess accidentally on the surface, clean it down and go again. Because when we clean across it, we're leveling anyway. And so I think just by being patient and being clean and neat, I think we're going to be successful. And if we needed more color, fine. Actually, not putting too much color is good because, as you'll notice, each of these lines of grain is dark, right? So if we don't fully whiten the line, then I think that's okay. And the final judge will be when we step back a couple of feet and take a look at our real damage on the real repair. Well, that's about it. We need to load up and take a drive. We've definitely got a beautiful day to do this. And I've got A.R.T with me. She wants to take a couple of pictures while she's watching me work. Of course, I really brought her along to run the power cord for me.
Let's get to work!
Alright, about to get started. I've just got a small tote box here with everything we need. I have 3 different sources of light, including this headlight and the very few products that you saw that I had for the mock-up. So it doesn't take much, but it's nice to have a little carrying case for when you work in aircraft to keep everything neat, keep everything from spilling. We don't happen to have a carpet. Here's where all our preparation falls completely apart, at the very beginning. First, I have to get rid of these greasy smudges where people have been playing on the headliner. It looks like someone else has already been here and closed up the split, but apparently has used a very thick solvent glue that has swollen or raised a welt on the ultra leather, something we were definitely trying to avoid. Of course, as we mentioned at the outset, we cannot sand this down, and so I'm using the hair dryer to warm up the area, hoping that we can warm up also the glue that's lying underneath, and that I can use the flat end of this probe to try to level this off, compress it a little bit to make it level. I was very concerned that by tamping it that I might compress the ultra leather too much and I couldn't get it to rebound. However, I worked on it a little while longer and was able to make sure it came back to level pretty well. At this point, I've worked it down pretty good, but there are a couple of chatters on the one end, so I am adding some of the white glue in those areas, trying to keep it as small as possible. Then with the glue starting to dry, we can tamp it level. Now I'm getting some color on an applicator, and this is the applicator that will let me put individual drops of color. If they dry like that, it will only help to contribute to the texture. If we need to tamp them a little bit, we can always do that. They're soft enough to manipulate and get our whatever final result that we need out of it. So here's the problem. We've tamped this area so flat that now instead of having a raised welt, we have a purely flat area with no texture. So I have no option really here but to add texture. So we're adding a little bit right in the repair area alone. A couple applications of texture dried in between. Now it's looking pretty good, but as you know, texture droplets can appear to be a little bit darker and a little bit shinier than if the coating were properly atomized. And so just to be sure, I am atomizing it here on this step out, just a couple of feet. And of course with the flattener in it, it's dulling down to the appropriate look. So we've got something really good going on. We're doing what we didn't want to have to do, but that's the way it goes in big business. Okay, that's all I'm doing. We're done. So we've finished. It's a good blend. You can't really see it. If you were really looking for it, you might see it, but no one will be the wiser. And since this is where they bring the cargo in, it won't take but about a flight or two and we can blame it on somebody else. That's my spin. This is a difficult repair, not one I ever look forward to, but like a doctor, you treat the victim but do no harm, right? So so much like restoring a painting, it's so particular, so detailed, kind of unnerving. Shall I tell them about the picture that I did?
Absolutely.
Okay, a painting, yeah. I'll just tell you this brief story before we get out of here. There are people waiting for the good news when I come out this door. There are people on the phone anxious to see if we save them a whole boatload of money today. So I'm going to keep them on hold just for a little bit. I got to tell you this funny story. This is I don't know if I've ever told it on the channel. I don't think so. So I got called to restore a painting. So I went to the location and met the guy there, the owner, and gave me a tour of the place. And it's an amazing. They had like a dozen people there working on restoring like museum pieces. It was all kinds of artwork, like vases, s'il vous plaît, and you know, all kinds of really neat stuff. And where pieces were missing or pieces were burnt off, like this was being salvaged from a fire. And these people were recreating all these pieces and putting them back to their former glory. And I was just amazed. I mean, what a wonderful place to work, and what a wonderful bunch of people to be able to work along with. I thought, wow. So anyway, he took me over to the painting, and it's like about 6 foot long and 4 feet high, and they put it all on this table for me to get to, and so the owner, he says, everybody, this is Rick Lockwood. He's here to restore the painting today. And I thought, hello, and good, I'll go over here and work. And so I'm getting my boxes ready, all my tools and my paints. And he says, everybody gather around. I thought, oh, come on. So from the very start, I had a dozen people gathered around to watch me do this whole thing, you know. So anyway, I'm getting started, and they're starting to ask questions. And so as I'm hearing these questions, I think, wow, these are very specific questions. And so because of that, I know what the next question is going to be. Sure enough, next question. And the questions are so specific that it dawned on me. These are the right questions to ask. And that let me know that they weren't asking the questions to learn the answer. They already knew the answer. Everybody, all dozen of these people already knew the answer. They were asking the question to see if I could verify the answer for them for what I was doing. They were just reaffirming that what they already knew was in fact what I was doing right now. And I thought, wow, what a bunch of intellects. I mean, I am surrounded by greatness, and it was a very electrifying experience. It was really kind of strange, and I felt really privileged, you know, to be amongst a group of people like that. I've never experienced that before. So it was a very memorable occasion, and they even had the audacity to applaud me when I was done. So anyway, that was great. I mean, it was like birds picking me clean, you know. It was like they were downloading files from me and leaving me with empty file folders, and it was awesome. It really was awesome. And the funny thing is, I remember walking out the door when I was done and thinking, I'm never coming back here again. These people certainly don't need me. So anyway, they did a number on me that day, but that's a funny story to have to tell. Sometimes our everyday work is kind of repetitive and not so exciting. My work, though, I have discovered is exciting. It's like I learn something every day, which I'm more than happy to pass on to the channel. Of course, it involves all of us having a good time, you know. And most of my repairs, most of my repairs that I get are very interesting, and it keeps my work interesting. And of course, I work by myself, but it's nice when I have A.R.T here working with me today. Anyway, I hope that you all felt like you learned a little something on this video and enjoyed it as much as I did. The repair I hate the most still works out if we put due diligence to it, and we prepared very well for the job. Busy airport. We prepared very well for the job, and yet even then, when we got here, we had to adjust our approach and to be flexible. So there's still a little stress level, but we met the challenge. Now let's go to the people that are waiting so anxiously. Thanks for watching.